Hi, I'm Dean Sage.
And I'm Jack Hervin.
And this is Show Me Your Deck,
a podcast where we explore the intersections of oracles and chakras,
using our original decks to create new insights.
I'm sorry, I'm still chuckling about the mistake I made.
We're reading the wrong line?
Yeah.
That's actually, it's funny because you've never done that before. It's not like...
I know, we were on episode 59,000 and I finally make that mistake.
45. We're on episode 45.
Okay. I'm just going to read the entire introduction for Dean.
That's funny. Well, originally we were going to record it like separately, and we had like this whole thing. I was going to have this like whole like radio, show me your deck, show me your, like back and forth, like show me your deck, and
pew, pew, pew.
Yeah, lasers, and I was like, you know what, we're just more low key than that.
I can start doing the pew pews when you're talking if you want. Pew, pew, pew.
No.
We're so jazzy.
So fancy. Well, we had a different vibe we were pulling at originally, but I think this is the right vibe for us.
Yeah, I'm happy.
This is what we needed to do. Let's roll. Let's get some context.
Let's roll. Okay. Deck number 1, we got the Sassy deck.
Sassy deck,
Projections of Joy. Okay, which card? $14. So that's going to be the end of Svadhisthana. So we're definitely going to be in orange metal, but I don't remember what it intersects with. Maybe earth? Let me look.
Yeah, it should be.
Yep, that's it. Well, here we go. All right. So Svadhisthana, metal, I feel, and how it is intersected by Muladhara, red, earth, I am. Okay. An orgasm usually helps. Distinguish sin and pleasure. Define pleasure's role. Evaluate shame's influence.
That's hilarious.
An orgasm usually helps. Distinguish sin and pleasure. Define pleasure's role. Evaluate shame's influence.
That's hilarious because our first version of the intro we're going to play on the it's not alliteration. What is it? It's secondary meaning. What's the word? Entendre. Double entendre.
Oh yeah, double entendre. Yeah.
Yeah, with the word deck. And your deck was like, haha, I got you.
Hi, here we are. Et voila. So this card is giving a context here about the way in which we contextualize pleasure and shame and how they are distinct and how they function and how they are affecting our choices and outlook, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's intersecting with the root chakra, which is also like a sense of firmness, security, safety. So being grounded enough to enjoy yourself, grounded enough to experience some of those feelings that, like an orgasm, are, rapturous, and there's a surrender, I think, that you have to have to it.
Yeah, and an ecstatic state as well, even if it's only for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
So the ways in which we can orgasmically live, and that doesn't have to be sexual, of course. It can be all sorts of stuff, whether it's food or art or playing games or, whatever it is that you enjoy, and learning how, if you need to learn how, some people already know how, distinguishing it from any puritanical judgments about shame, whether it be, you got the 7 deadly sins, of course. It's not always about sex that people are being shamed. Sometimes it's food. Sometimes it's how much they like to sleep. I mean, there's all sorts of ways that we can be guilted into enjoying pleasure.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing there, is that pleasure itself is a naughty word in a Western context.
Which is so weird, because pleasure is, I do this for my pleasure. It's like, well, I read for my pleasure. But I do all sorts of stuff for pleasure.
It just immediately, if you talk about self-pleasure, people just jump right to masturbation.
I mean, absolutely.
There's no other alternative. Mm-mm. But then, yes, we do say, I read for pleasure. And people are like, oh, well, that's good. That's nice. But it's like, it has to be an acceptable pleasure.
Literature.
Oh, what now?
Literature.
Oh, literature.
If it were to be something like manga. Yeah, I definitely feel guilty about reading manga. But if it's manga or comic books or anything that's a quote unquote serious, fantasy novels or whatever, then people will criticize you for wasting your time, even when you're reading for pleasure. Even though there's a lot of fantastic messages and ideas and concepts that can come from quote unquote not serious writing.
Well, I mean, serious writing has gone off the deep end, I think, in some ways, to where, like, I mean, I love James Joyce, I do, but Finnegan's Wake is an experimental nightmare.
Yeah, well, some stuff you only need to do one time, and then nobody else needs to do it again.
But I feel like everyone's sort of like still trying to like duplicate that. I'm like, if you want to be experimental, but like do your own experiment. I mean, we've talked about this. I feel like art today has gone into this performative space where it's trying to be art rather than existing in an artistic way.
Right. Well, there's the desperate need to always find something quote unquote new. Because as you have said yourself, there are tropes and people are afraid of using them, but tropes exist because they are necessary. So it's okay for you to be a writer who writes on a piece of paper instead of a writer who, writes with, I don't know, sparklers in the air. I don't know. I don't know anything about it, but that just came off the top of my head. It's fine to experiment, but to do so simply to be edgy doesn't feel like it has as much heart.
Well, like, so there's people that do like experimental installation art and, trash on the floor. There was one at the Philly Art Museum when I was there that was interesting. There was maybe some cognitive load to it. I had to read the description to even begin to know what I was looking at. And I think it's interesting if you want to comment on something, like take the pietà, right? A very tropey thing that's been done hundreds of times, and change it to have a commentary on homelessness or a commentary on a broken home. Like take the forms and change them in interesting ways. I think I was speaking probably a little bit more to myself right now, and I'll own that. But you don't like that's what I've been struggling with, as you've said, like having to be new. That was always my inner critic was, this who's going to care if this isn't new, if this isn't groundbreaking, if this isn't, and that's just, someone's already done that. You can't do that. That's already been done. No, it's okay. You can.
Well, yeah. And just as a reminder, I think this has come up in the podcast before. Being new and groundbreaking isn't necessarily to your benefit. When you're the first to do something, most people don't know what you've done. Mm-hmm. It's who's second or third that really reaps the reward of what has happened. So, instead of striving to be the first to do something, maybe strive to be the happiest to do something. Or the most sincere, perhaps. I don't think you have to be happy to make good art, but I think that you probably do have to be sincere.
I do think there is something to be said, because we did pull pleasure, right? There's something to be said about the ecstatic state of creation.
I was experiencing it this morning in bed. I was stuck in bed for about 3 hours with this web of storytelling happening in my head, and I couldn't move, and I was afraid to move. I was afraid that I would disturb it, and I started to feel bad for laying there. It's like, I should be up by now. It's like, no, I'm going to lay here. I'm going to let this play out. I want to see what these connections end up being, because it's kind of critical to the ongoing story that I'm trying to tell. And it's funny this card would come up, because I did start to feel bad about laying there for so long. But once I start moving around, the ideas dissipate. Mm-hmm. So I laid there for a long time and just let all of it play over and over and over in loops, and watch how it would change and find new nuances and what this implies here and there. I had to force myself to give myself the time and to let go of what somebody else might think about me laying in bed until 9:45 a.m. on a Saturday.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, sin. Sloth.
Actually, I was reading some Tumblr posts on this, and one of them keeps coming up, but in Tumblr, like they always comment on it, so like it keeps coming back because somebody added a new comment on it. And yeah, we've literally made moral righteousness out of waking up early and being productive. I'm putting obviously big quotes on that, being productive. And sleeping in or finding your productivity later in the day is somehow slothful, right? One of our 7 deadly sins. Somehow it's a lesser form of productivity because it's not happening in that 9 to 5 space. And it all comes from industrialization, right? I mean, and farming a little bit too, because, farming, you had to kind of wake up. But even farmers would take a break.
They take siestas.
There was something
for hours in the middle of the day.
There was something that they did in the morning, and there was stuff that they did in the evening, and whatever made the most sense.
And there was a deep wisdom about the way it was timed and the way it was scheduled and the way it was ordered. So here's the thing: if you need to sit still for a few hours to let stuff percolate and congeal, then do it. I think part of what this context card is telling us is that. Well, the first of the main chakra here is Svadhisthana. So this is instinctual. This is sensation and emotion and instinct. If your instinct is telling you to be still, then something in your body needs that.
Well, it's like a ringing bell, right? You have metal here. Metal has sympathetic vibrations. Orgasms have vibrations, right? There's the metaphor holds. There's lots of ecstatic states have vibrations. Creativity has vibrations.
Well, cats, when they're happy, purr. The baby vibrates. So you have this sympathetic resonance that can, ring your bell, and that can mean many things. That can mean a great many things. I'll be creative, and I'll feel it. I will feel it in my second chakra when I'm being creative. Oh, I do too. And it's strange because I started being very aware of this yesterday when I was swinging the hammock, also thinking very deeply about the storytelling web. I can feel it inside my head, and it's almost like tiny series of lightning bolts flickering through a dark cloud, and it feels really good, but it's inside my liminal spaces. I don't know how to explain it, but it is an actual dopamine fix. And I kind of needed this because ever since I've sent my draft out for feedback, I haven't had anything creative to do, and it's been tearing up my mental health. And so yesterday and today I made up for a lot of that by doing a little light revision work in the novel, but also planning ahead for what comes next. And it felt really good.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm trying not to chase ecstatic states as the only time I can write.
Yeah.
I'm trying to just sit down and write and let what comes come. And, it means like I did some writing yesterday, and I wrote up to a point. I'm like, I don't really know where this is going. I'm not sure what's happening. I don't have any plans, and the characters aren't speaking to me. So I'm like, okay. And I just moved on to the next section and wrote there until I got to an end point. I'm like, okay, I think I'm done for now. And
it'd be really interesting if they end up, if you work that way and they end up growing in both directions and gradually just overlapping each other by accident.
Well, I almost skipped ahead to because I've been like you were kind of brainstorming, like you literally described a brainstorm, which I thought was awesome, like the liminal lightning storm in your head.
Right?
Brainstorm.
Oh, how cool.
I have been brainstorming, and one of the times I do that, like I'll get in the shower before I go write and try to, relax and kind of ease the brain and free it up. And so I have all these ideas about this big, booming, because it's a disaster horror story that I'm writing. So there's lots of chaoticness and fire and almost biblical things happening. And so I'm like, should I skip ahead? Should I write that? And because I've never really done that. I've never really written out of order, because most of the time there's a new word for us. We are intuitive, non-methodological writers.
I don't know that I ever write from beginning to end. Because what I was about to suggest is, well, why don't you just write all of it? Well, write the parts that want to be written and then look for the path that'll connect them together.
It's something about the way that I like to work is sort of letting the characters go through it. So I feel like if I write ahead, I'm then setting a destination that the character has to get to.
Well, but if you don't know what order you're writing them in, then you don't know what's ahead.
That's impossible for me. Because I have a general outline of the story.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well,
Gotcha.
and we're getting into our. So if you ever wanted a free preview of what we talk about in the members section,
well, I guess that's what this is, isn't it?
that's what that was. But let's get back to the card,
Sure.
Because it creativity part of it, sexuality part of it. It's good that we're coming off of Pride Month and this card comes up because it's a matter of the world about us, how we interact with it, how we find pleasure, and the safety part. That's kind of what's sticking with me is that, we've talked a lot about the second chakra here, but the root bringing a sense of security to all of this.
Mm-hmm.
So we're grounded and we're allowing the emotions, the static molten aspects of this. What's the I should ask this before. What's the image here?
You know what? I think this might be. Is this lava? Let me look.
We're getting, and this is a preview. This is why we don't have ads on the podcast, because the whole podcast is an ad. You should get our books, our pretty books. Well, yours is very pretty. Mine's a pretty standard book.
You know what? That I looked at another deck instead of just looking at the book. Let me just get the book.
Oh, I thought you were getting the book.
I thought I was too. I was in bed till 9:45. Let's see. Number 14. Is that lava or is that? Oh no. Oh, this one's good.
Okay.
This is when you find veins of ore in all the rock.
Oh.
So I profess that I feel pleasure without shame. This is my pornographic vowels haiku. You're looking at me funny.
I'm trying to remember it.
Lewd, you exude ooze, adored golden motherlode, snugly engulfed plug. And if you read only the vowels, you get ooh, 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 oh,
I'm sorry, it just sounded like you're speaking French there for a second.
Whooshy, 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 whooshy.
What's the name of the thing where they flip the word so that you can never understand French even if you're studied for years?
Yeah, verlan.
Yeah.
Which itself is an inversion of the word inverse. Verlan.
No. When I learned about this, I was like, that's it. I could never effectively live in France because they would just hate because there's no way that I could learn the language and then learn it backwards. I'm dyslexic. Like this will not happen.
Well, it's not even backwards. It's popped apart and reversed, or you change the order of this.
That's true. Yeah, it's not even reversed and it's cut in half and reversed.
Yeah, and you switch the positions of the syllable. So meuf becomes femme becomes meuf. So femme is woman, but in slang it's meuf. Femme, meuf.
No. That's interesting that the image is the ore in the rocks, because that's exactly it. It's that shiny, beautiful substance surrounded and secured by the sediment.
Your physical self. Yeah.
Yeah. By the sediment of ourselves, the layers of ourselves compounding. That's just a beautiful image.
And it's like the shiniest, most beautiful parts of us are running through our entire being. And that's the shiniest part of you.
Yeah. Let's see where we go from this. We've got a pretty
so that's
solid
quite a context. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
we've got a pretty solid one.
Yeah.
Let's see what my deck has to offer. She's a little indecisive. No, it's definitely this one. There's two cards that were trying to come out there. Maybe we'll take a look at the second one in a second. This is the Six of Storms. Swept away by the storm, you are washed free.
Well, we were just talking about ecstasy, weren't we?
Yep. And this is the heart chakra. So we're bringing that
Read your card again.
Swept away by the storm, you are washed free.
That's pretty.
This is the Six of Swords in the tarot. There's a sense of destination, movement, travel that comes along with this card. But for me, kind of unifying the suit of storms, which is oft maligned, as I will continue to advocate against. There's always something bad with swords. Swords is a bad suit. There's always bad meanings. And I think, yes, storms are devastating, as we've been seeing. I think it was Texas the last couple of days, just devastating floods, carrying houses away. They're so powerful, 20 feet high. I mean, just, yes, storms are horribly destructive at times, but they also bring what is needed, and they are a source of life at the same time. And they really intersect with the heart chakra, because every moment you can be buffeted or fall, right? You can be grounded or soar. And it depends on what's going on, within you, within your rainbow, within yourself. And this card is about the storm coming and sweeping away things that you don't need. Taking away things that you don't need, leaving you maybe in a new place, a new destination. And yes, you have lost, right? There's some grief to this, but you've also gained freedom, because you don't always need everything that you think you need.
Well, it's also clearing away a space to learn a lesson. And the real, I guess, tragedy of storms is when people don't learn that lesson, they rebuild where they already were.
Yes.
And we just experienced this last year here in North Carolina when Hurricane Helene came up into the mountains of all places. I mean, came hundreds of miles up into the mountains, and they were making it sound like this was never happening before, blah, 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 blah. But I did some reading, and it turns out that Asheville gets kind of half washed away every 20 years or so. So I guess, or when you hear stories about people who keep rebuilding in the exact same spot where their tornado keeps knocking their stuff down, it's like, okay, obviously there's the question, well, what if they can't go anywhere else? Of course, that's true too. But what's the lesson here about doing again that which did not work before? How will you change? What will you change? How do you look for help? How do you improvise? How do you collaborate? What can you do differently the next time to protect yourself? If you have to stay put, how do you rebuild in such a way that you're less vulnerable next time?
Well, I think tornado and flood are very different good examples. Like they're two sides of the metaphor. So tornadoes just strike. They're like lightning, right? Yeah. They don't come to a place because they've come to a place before. Now, do they happen in general areas that are somewhat predictable? They used to, yeah. I had a tornado near my house, and that's crazy because I live on the East Coast. So things are changing, but yes, you can live in Tornado Alley and there is a danger of it, and that is sort of an ever-present sword hanging over you. But floods are very predictable because we built where the river used to be. Mm-hmm. Or we build next to the river, and when it swells, it's water. It finds the lowest point and the easiest path to it. So if you're building inside the path, you're going to be flooded again.
So then, if you are in a situation or you're living a life wherein you know you have an inherent risk that is unavoidable, then how do you prepare for that? And within the broader context of the first card, how do you, I don't know, how does this come back to the context card?
I think that I see it as freedom and safety to enjoy yourself while letting the guilt and the grief of the guilt. Because I think there's guilt for what you feel, and then there's a grief of losing something because of what you feel. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where we're being pulled to in this, is that you are washed clean, right? We clean and dirty.
Yeah. Oh, the kitten scampered away. Sorry, never mind. Damn it, I should have interrupted you faster. I hate that. So yeah, you're washed clean.
It'll come back. Yeah, there's such a sense of dirtiness to the second chakra.
Yeah.
There's such a sense of hedonism and vile behavior and outsider, and I can't think of all the words, but they go here. And I think this is saying, open your heart. There's a joy in feeling your emotions within a broader context of being yourself, because it's I am and I feel. So there's self pleasure inherent in the card that you wrote, the projection. Is it projection? Mm-hmm. Projection deck. There's a fun, sassy sense to it, and I think we don't want to lose that in this reading. But in order to be fun and sassy, you have to accept yourself. You have to be yourself. You have to I am yourself in order to feel what you feel genuinely and authentically.
Well, what's interesting is there are so many different places from which shame can radiate. You can even be shamed for even having feelings. So if you are in some state of disarray after a storm, and here you are worried about your circumstances, then you feel guilty that you're not worried about somebody else's circumstances instead. It's like, oh, I'm being selfish instead of thinking about the broader community. It's like, sometimes you need to be selfish. And it's okay sometimes to be fully aware of what's happening to you and not everybody else. You don't have to feel bad about it just because you're not thinking about how other people are suffering, quote unquote, more than you. Because I've heard that too, that people they'll try to minimize their own suffering because somebody else is suffering more. It's like, you denigrating your feelings that way isn't helping the people who are suffering. You'd probably do better to go ahead and process whatever's happening with you so that you can be helpful to somebody else.
Mm-hmm. I think there's an internalness to this, right? So we started with some very internal things. The washing free is a very personal experience, right? It's bringing you free of things that you don't need. Guilt is one of them. You talked about shame. You're kind of bringing in the third chakra there. Guilt is bad actions. You did something wrong. Shame is you are something wrong, and they go together. Mm-hmm. Doing something wrong can very easily become you are something wrong.
And you are something wrong means you can do nothing but wrong.
Mm-hmm. And that religion loves this. So I think
they kind of walk around holding hands, don't they?
They do. Because it makes them necessary. Because you can't do things right, because you are inherently wrong, there must be a solution.
Also be bad.
Yeah. There has to be a way.
If you are bad, then all you can do is wrong. What a horrible circle.
And then you need salvation. And I think there's inner ecstasy. You can seek it externally, and that's fine if you do. If that's part of your practice and that brings you alignment and inner peace and inner joy, then that's fine. I'm not saying that you shouldn't. But I ask you to question is it bringing you inner alignment? Because I think that's the trouble with where some spiritual practices go, is that they become machines of solution and not machines of balance.
Well, and also in terms of trying to pursue pleasure, especially if it's a salve for pain, we can abuse that pleasure and it turns into addictions. It turns into dangerous habits. So we're not telling you to just go be willy-nilly taking heroin and being crazy. We're saying that there is pleasure that is healthy. There's pleasure that is soothing, but there's also a false form of pleasure that can be destructive, and you have to be paying very close attention because you can trip from one to the other without even knowing it.
My Suit of Storms deals a little bit, there's themes of addiction within it, because addiction is chasing joy forever.
Yeah.
It's chasing the high forever. And you're not meant to stay high. Just like you're not meant to stay aloft forever. You're meant to return to the earth. You're meant to return to I am.
There's not any state you're supposed to be in forever. You're supposed to be dynamic and responding appropriately from moment to moment. And sometimes there's joy, and sometimes there's boredom, and sometimes there's pain, and sometimes there's grief. But if you're always trying to drown it all out with pleasure and seeking dangerous ways of doing it, then it's not really a healthy practice anymore. But I don't think that's necessarily something you should feel shame or guilt about if it's a cycle that you've found yourself in. Of course, there's people who want to help you.
Well, they'll block. Shame and guilt will block you from finding alignment. And the hardest part, I think, about addiction, and again, I don't speak from personal experience. My father was an addict, and I saw him. I have experience. There's people in my life that are or were addicts. So I've seen a lot, but I don't speak from personally experiencing it. But what I do see is that the challenge is peace. The challenge is to walk the sword, to walk the line between grief, despair, and joy, and ecstasy, and being okay with peace, and understanding that peace is happy. Happy in Western culture, we're taught that happy is things, happy is experiences, happy is a state that you have to rise to. That there's some sort of upward motion, and this is how they get us to buy things.
Well, but that's also how bliss gets tied into nirvana or something. It's like, I don't agree with the idea that bliss is the state you should be striving toward. I mean, I'm of the opinion that calm and quiet and balance would be, better. But if you always want bliss, then perhaps what you actually want is soothing something that's bothering you. You don't necessarily want constant bliss. You want to stop feeling pain, but chasing bliss is not the answer to that. You have to address the pain.
I think bliss maybe is a bad translation. Nirvana is such a hard concept in the first place. To then try to take it from one language to another, I think is probably near impossible. I think this is why Zen exists, right? I think this is why the Zen monks exist, because language is just so inadequate when it comes to a lot of this. So yes, I think
like when I take classes, and it's one of the reasons I don't take classes anymore, is the teachers tend to speak a language of perpetual bliss, whether it's through dancing or whatever the modality is for the class, singing bowls, whatever. And I just get tired of feeling pressured to be chasing bliss. It's too much work, because so every time you don't achieve bliss, you failed at something. It's like, why does bliss have to be the end goal?
Yeah, there's something between a state of peace and oneness and ecstasy. And I think bliss is a word that walks between those two worlds and probably gets misused.
I mean, it gets, it doesn't get all the fanfare, but content would be good.
Honestly, the book, there's a book, The Art of Happiness, I think is the title. And it tells you the whole book in the first couple pages, like in the first couple paragraphs. It tells you it's like the secret to being happy is realizing that you're exactly where you're supposed to be right now. And then the whole book just talks you through that. But the one concept is that you're exactly where you're supposed to be right now. And if you can accept that, if you can embody that, if you can align yourself and your bridge and your rainbow around that, then you will always be happy.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not striving for things. It's not feeling the loss of things. It's walking the middle line. I want to see what the other card was that my deck tried to bring up. We were just talking about the third chakra. I'm like, the third chakra needs to come up. So we have the source of flames. You are the ever burning flame. You are the ever burning flame. This is the culmination of the suit of flames, or the wands in the tarot. This would be the Queen of Wands if we were in the tarot. It's just alignment.
Okay, so if you are the ever burning flame, then there's nothing else that you need.
It's within you.
Mm-hmm. And it always was. You don't have to go chase. You don't have to go chasing anything. It's already right there.
The power to take action, to create whatever the power to do anything already exists within you.
Well, I mean, this is Dorothy clicking her heels together 3 times. You just have to realize you can do it.
Yes. The magic lay within her the whole time.
Mm-hmm. And it lies within you too, listener.
Of course, if Glinda had just told her at the start.
Yes, but that's the whole point of the quest, is to learn the lesson.
That's true.
Then we wouldn't have the story. And I love the flying monkeys.
You do?
I love the flying monkeys.
They were freaky. Even in the original version, the effects as a child, the effects hold up, because you don't know any different.
No. This is interesting because there's a moment similar to this towards the end of the novel I'm editing right now. It's getting close to time to query it, but there's a moment of this, at least one moment of this in mind, where the main character realizes something and could just give the answer to these 3 other characters. And it's like, no, I had to go through this process to realize it. So do they. That's the way you learn. If I give them the answer right now, there's no learning involved. So the character's just like, here you go. Well, figure it out. Because that's where the story is. The story is figuring it out. That is your life story. If somebody were to give you all the answers, you wouldn't appreciate them. How about that? If somebody were to just say, this is what you do, number one, you wouldn't listen, because that's how human beings are. We do not listen. The only lessons we learn are difficult and or expensive, probably both. And so if somebody were to tell you the secret to everything, you would discount it because you didn't earn it. But just a reminder, the flame is there.
You just reminded me, teenagers, the act of rebellion is evolutionarily coded. There's, a chance to reject what you've been taught and try to formulate things for yourself. And I think a lot of us never leave that time period. In fact, we know that the person that you are when you are 12 or 13 tends to be the core person that you are the rest of your life. Like, you are what you were when. I think that's the statement. You are what you were when. Some psychologists have published on that idea, that the core of who we are gets formulated in those first few teenage years. And I think you lose sight of wisdom when you're in rebellion. And the true people that grow wise themselves are the ones that learn to listen again. Because there's people out there that have told you exactly what they learned. And if you could just take that wisdom and apply it, and some do, you could skip some of the hardships.
Yeah.
You would encounter your own. And the thing about the hardships is that they will come for everyone. There's some universal things that everyone has to experience that are hard. But you can have wisdom with you in those moments. This, though, oh, go ahead.
I'm watching all this play out with my nephew. It doesn't matter what my sister does, doesn't matter how she tries to help. My nephew is unresponsive to absolutely everything and has been for over a year. And now he is 19 and my sister has to sell the house and there's no plan. That's not from lack of trying. We've been trying to feed him ideas, but he is inert and won't respond to any of it. And now he's going to have to move quick because all the options he thought were going to be easy didn't work out. So it doesn't matter what my sister has told him, what I've told him. He's going to have to learn all this stuff on his own. It just is what it is. I'm sitting here watching it play out. It's like, this is going to be hard. But you know what? When I was 19, my choices were pretty questionable too. So, and you know, the point I keep making to my sister is, you know, when you were this age, look at what you did. You know, don't get too crazy here. You know, we all do crazy stuff at that age. And now my sister is a commander in the Coast Guard. It's like, you don't have to travel the road everybody thinks is going to be easiest for you. In fact, it's probably best that you don't. Because when my sister was 18, 19, 20, there is no way I would imagine that she would be E10 in the Coast Guard. I mean, that's as high as you can go. Only like 1 in 10,000 people do it. My sister's a commander bossing all these people around. I'm like, yes, but never would have thought it could happen. That's not what the direction seemed at that time. So there are trajectories that you create for yourself. Now, people with wisdom will try to help you avoid pain. But I think one of the reasons we have to feel the pain is to find the trajectory. Because if we followed the path, you know, we'd never stub our toes, we'd never fall, we never look to the side to see what tripped us and learn something. We just keep skipping right along. And I'm actually, it's disappointing the way some of this stuff has turned out with my nephew. And yet I somehow know that he's going to be fine because he's really smart. And his path is going to look very different from his older brothers. My first nephew, he's 02 in the Navy. He's a first lieutenant now. And, you know, he went to the Naval Academy in Maryland. And that's not what's happening with the next child. That's going to be a very, very different path. And I think that's part of what scares my sister is that the first child is taken care of, but the second child is definitely not. And there's still a third and a fourth one that have to be cared for. Mm. So there's only so much more help, so much more resources my sister can put into this second child because there's still the littles.
I have a problem with your worldview here. And I think it's interesting because I don't think you have to suffer to learn everything. I don't think that suffering is necessary for learning. I think that you do learn and I think that you do suffer, but I don't think it has to be. Like, I do truly think that you can be given wisdom to do better. Like, I believe that the mothers that came before passed down information and wisdom that can save you from taking the same painful course. You're going to have your own painful course because things will come along. But I don't like because it to me, it reads too much of the bootstrap methodology. Mm-hmm. It reads too much of the conservative mindset of, well, I had to go through it, so you have to go through it. And I don't believe that because I think that's the opposite of what we should be doing as the generations before. I think, you know, and I see this and it's funny because we're split right down the middle, Gen X and millennial. I'm one of the oldest millennials, and you're a pretty young Gen X. And yep. There's a key difference between our generations, and one of them is that trying to share what has happened with the intent of saving, you know, people some pain. And I think, with Gen X, it's just different. There's a difference to it because of how you grew up and the way that things weren't given to you. You were the dad who's like, don't stick your finger in the light socket, versus go ahead, try it, see what happens.
See what happens.
You were the see what happens generation. Yeah, exactly. And so it's I have like a fundamental like when you were saying some of that, which is fine. I think that's what's interesting about the two of us is that we have such similarities and yet very different lives.
Mm-hmm.
And it informs how we view things. So I just had to get that kind of out there for a second. But I do agree that there are different paths, and sometimes you have to walk a path, and you will not always take the wisdom of those that came before. And unfortunately, you're setting yourself on a path where you've got to, suffer what someone else suffered in order to come to realization. And sometimes we're just like that. But coming back to the card, you have the power within you to be free to walk between grief and joy while being filled with the emotion, the deep emotion, while being filled with pleasure. Like you are without shame. You have power. No one's taking it from you. It's within you. No one can steal it away or hoard it from you or redirect. Like it's not an external resource that you have to go get. It's internal to you. It's already within you. You don't have to go get fire and power from other people. And this is where, again, power is a word that has many gradations to it. You don't need to create power imbalances to have power yourself. You have power over yourself already. You are in control of yourself already. You don't need to create imbalances in the world to experience it. You have what you need within you.
It's interesting because you started with the current card and worked backwards to the context card, and that works perfectly. It also works if you start with the context and go forward, because if you do embrace pleasure, if you do embrace joy without shame, and learn from past experiences and blah blah blah, then you come forward in a position to recognize this power that's within you. So the reading is interesting because it goes forward and backward. It's almost like an answer to shame and guilt holding hands and skipping down the road. It's like, here's joy and here's empowerment. And how can they hold hands and skip down the road?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I want to see what happens next.
Let's get the tetrahedron of doom.
Dun, 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 dun.
Deck number two, that's the professions. 48.
48. We're going up high.
Way up high. I think this is going to be ether and air. Let me see. It is ether and air. So this is crown. I know, purple. Touching Vishuddha. This is the throat. This is aqua, air. I say. I profess that I know my voice matters and that it can help others. I profess that I know my voice matters and that it can help others.
Well, the internal experience just turned external. The freedom and power and lack of shame, lack of guilt, lack of fear. Right? I think we knocked those three out. We took away fear, we took away guilt, we took away shame. We walked our way up to the heart chakra, where we found a balance between despair, grief, joy, and bliss. right? We found a middle ground to kind of stand in. And now, out of our connection with others, we're being called to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Speak truth.
Yep. Your voice matters, and it can help others.
But it has to come from that place. Like we kind of started to talk about generational issues. I think we have to really get into it now, because I think this is definitely calling. So we have wisdom, we have traveled paths. In my deck, the authority is the person who sets the path forward that others will follow. The one that draws the line of gravity that everything else follows behind. And the authority is a troublesome image for a lot of people. It's the Emperor card in the tarot. So it's this very patriarchal thing. And that's kind of the reason why I moved away from some of its imagery in my Oracle deck, because I didn't like introducing patriarchy to the cycle. I just felt like that's not where we're going. So, like I said before, I like to think of the wisdoms of mothers kind of being passed down to us, because there's something different about it than the wisdom of men. There's something more nurturing, I think, about it, without falling into the feminine is this and masculine is that. Like I don't like that. So there is a sense of generational trauma or generational wisdom, and the fine line between those two things. And here, I think this is a call to speak truth from that place of balance, the four lower chakras being an alignment. Now share with others, and some will listen, some will not. But you're called to be a voice of truth in the mix of that.
Yeah, especially if your truth isn't convenient for people. Having to be secure in yourself and your instinct and your sense of motivation and action and your purpose, when all that is aligned, when you need to speak a truth that's inconvenient, you will at least have that strength to come through and share your message.
It's interesting you went to inconvenient. That's interesting. What about the reading drew you to that piece?
That a lot of times what it is people need to say is not what other people want to hear, even if it is true, and then it becomes inconvenient for them to have to look at, and then they will or will not look at it. They will or will not listen, as we've been saying. They will or will not take the insight and carry it forward or not. But truth a lot of times is inconvenient, even when it's kind, because it still forces us to examine ourselves and understand whether or not we're standing up to our own, expectations. And it can be inconvenient to find out that, oh no, I'm really not. And making those adjustments. I think what I have in mind right now are some experiences I had, like with Anaros Media, or even with the 49 Professions of Joy. There have been moments where I myself have watched other people say something that needs to be said, and then it upset people because they don't want to change, even though what I said was not wrong. And there's times when I make realizations and have to look at myself and be like, oh my God, that means I have to change this and this, and I have to admit that. So speaking truth is necessary, but it's quite often inconvenient.
Mm.
And that's probably when it needs to be said most.
It's interesting. I think there's a lot of you pulling through that. When I hear this, I think of tribes that form around truths, of communities that form around truth, that speaking it, you attract others. But from what you were saying, like you've gone through a lot of pain when it comes to speaking your truth. And you also live your life through patterns and rules and structures. It's how you write, it's how you live.
Mm-hmm.
And I get that too. I have part of that as well. There's an optimism I feel that continually springs up within me, even when it's maybe not called for, even in the face, of other things. I just have this sort of bounce back of optimism. I'm not sure where it comes from, because there's a lot of negativity in my childhood. There was definitely a lack of optimism a lot of times. And I think maybe I grabbed onto it as like a reflex, because it was just, otherwise I would just be in despair.
Yeah, well, you have to have optimism. I think that the first time I was really punished for honesty was when I came out, when I was 15 in 10th grade in 1991 in Harlem, Georgia. What I did was not done. I was the only one. And the response spread out across 2 counties. People would come across county lines to come look at me and see what a homosexual looks like. And it just wasn't done. And on the one hand, it was very empowering because I no longer had to explain why I didn't have a girlfriend. People stopped having that expectation. There's all sorts of stuff that changed. I was able to be who I wanted to be. There were lots of benefits to that, but it came with a lot of cost. And that might be one of those life experiences where I just equate being honest with being attacked. Because it's happened a lot. Not just then, like a lot. So that's just how I have experienced honesty, that it's something that you have to be brave enough to do. Not generous enough to do. I mean, you have to be generous enough to do it, yeah. But now you have to be brave enough to do it too.
Well, I don't share that experience because I didn't really come out. I just sort of lived, and what people needed to know, they knew, as they needed to know it. I don't have a specific, like I have pansexual, bisexual, I have demisexual, right? Part of the asexual spectrum. Like I have some words, but I don't really parse them with people. And I didn't really, come to any kind of self-acceptance until it's like 27, 28. That's the first time I allowed myself to maybe date the same gender and to express some of that. And then even that was confusing because I didn't fit, the normalcy of a gay life. Even that didn't quite, so I don't have your experience. I definitely don't. And I have spoken truth and been, not attacked for it, but I've hit resistance with it. Especially within my family, like the whole, my whole growing up was speaking truth and no one listening. In some ways, I would tell them what would happen, and they just didn't believe me. So I do share kind of that aspect, but not at the level like you were attacked for being. I was attacked or disregarded for thinking, and I think those are 2 very different experiences. 2 very different things. And then you just, and I've cautioned you about this on your book too, you just pour your whole self into things. You have very little restraint in some ways.
Yeah, that's truth. I'm speaking my truth and it can help others.
And I think that this is a good thing for the listeners. It's okay to be truthful without putting your whole self out there. Like take take Jack as an extreme in this regard.
Get all away.
Creativity does not require your whole self all the time. And in fact,
wallow around in barbed wire and rubbing alcohol. You're not an artist unless you do.
It's okay to keep parts of yourself to yourself. Also, take me as an example. You don't have to do it completely. Like, I don't walk around like I have a picture of my spouse in my office. So I call them my spouse because they're gender neutral, kind of trans. So out of just a respect, I don't refer to them as husband. I say spouse. So, some people might find that as, oh, I'm skirting, the truth in some way. And no, I'm speaking a deeper truth. I'm just not explaining it to them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't go around explaining to them, well, this is how my spouse identifies and this is why I do this. And I've never really explained myself to people. I let them assume what they want to assume. I don't really discuss that part of myself with others. Like I just never have. So I think, I've been straight passing a lot in my life. I think people who pay attention understand that I'm not. Like I don't have stereotypical things. And, I make jokes and live authentically, I think. I don't try to hide. Like I don't try to pass.
You're speaking your truth the way you want to, that feels authentic to you.
Yeah.
I have a more confrontational relationship with truth. That's all.
Yes, you do.
Quite confrontational.
Quite. Let's do our last roll.
Okay. All right. Oh, where did it go? Deck number 3.
Oh.
These are the intersections. This is the bouquet of flowers.
The bouquet.
And bucket. The number is... I can't tell which side is pointing up. Hold on.
That dice always gets you. It also always rolls far. You have a very hard toss.
Yeah. Well, no, not really. It's just that when you have 50 sided, it's almost a sphere and it just rolls a lot. But it's number 26. So 26. Right in the middle. So I think, is that going to be in the middle of Anahata? Let me look. 26. Yes, actually, this is Anahata and Muladhara. So green and red, I love and I am. So we're coming to this center, reinforcing the heart and also reinforcing the base. Mm-hmm. So I love and how it's affected by I am. The way you make connections with people and how that's affected by your sense of identity, safety, security, health, and wellness.
Well, I think it just affirms what we've been saying. And I think bringing the heart back, we have to think about, like you said, our interactions with others, but through the lens of the heart.
And not only that, but who it is we identify as, who do we want to be? So you're going to make connections in your life. Hopefully they're authentic. And that happens when you embrace your instinct, when you act in a way that is authentic to you, when you speak your truth. You can then build a community, or at least a network of connections, that allows you to continue expressing who you are happily and vibing with people without having to force it. Mm-hmm. It will feel natural because you are being your authentic self. You do not have shame. The actions you take reinforce that, and you talk about it in such a way that even inspires and helps other people. So of course, you're going to attract people who want to be around that. So the way you interact with people is definitely affected by who you are as a person. This is almost like speak your truth, be your truth. And like attracting like and all that kind of stuff. I don't know that I believe in that in a woo-woo level, but what I do believe in is if you project yourself the way that is indicative of who you want to be, other people are going to see that and they'll decide that they want to be close to that and they'll connect to that. So be who you want to, you be yourself, who you want your tribe to be. You were talking about, creating clusters around an idea. You can yourself be the idea, be the idea of embodiment that attracts other people who want to accomplish what you have.
So something you haven't experienced that I have, I've been out in the world as a writer. I published, and at the time there was a book site called Romance Readers. I can't remember the name now. It's been too long. My brain recycles thoughts. If it deems the information no longer useful, it throws it in the trash and moves on. There was a site where it was, I use quotes around this, easy to connect with readers. They featured every new book. So every time someone published something, it was featured. You didn't have to pay for it. You didn't have to convince anybody about it. It just was featured. So people that were voracious erotic romance readers would be able to look for new books very, very easily. Mm-hmm. And so I got people that read my book. I made about $1,000 on Amazon, and I probably made more on this website just because, like I said, people were looking for new and were taking chances on new. Mm-hmm. And that's just something that doesn't happen in different places. But I got fans, and I had a different way of approaching things than others do in that genre. And it's why I don't really write that genre anymore, because I wasn't quite writing all the tropes. I was writing to them, but I just had a different take on it, and it's not as escapist, I think, as others. So I got feedback is what I'm kind of getting at. Like I've put writing out there and I've gotten feedback, and it was interesting because people liked it, people didn't like it. Right? It met their needs, it didn't meet their needs. And I just find it sort of fascinating, like how that did and didn't affect me. One of the things that I took away, and it was actually from a fan, like someone who did like what I wrote, but she said, I want to know what the comforter feels like. Like I want some of the sensations of things, and being I don't want to say I'm primarily a screenwriter because I've only written one produced screenplay. So I can't really call myself primarily a screenwriter, but I'm primarily a visual writer, I think is what I would say. Like screenplays are just very natural to me. I don't have to try very hard with them. I just do. I just do. Like they just kind of flow from me. Visual storytelling flows from me. So it was interesting to hear someone, critique my book writing, which is very different. I was just speaking with our friend Lisa yesterday, and she was asking, well, if you had AI take your writing and produce it into a movie, would that help you? And I was like, no, it wouldn't, because
it's still visual.
Books are interior. They're not like they are visual, but they're interior. So it would be someone staring at the camera and then saying something, and then the other person staring at the camera and then saying something. Like everything that makes a book would be missing, which is why adaptations are so hard, because you have to draw the interior to the exterior. And like in adapting your work, we're going to have to add somebody for your character to talk to, which will probably be, adding in more of the one character than I think who I'm thinking of, but the one or two characters that they do talk to about the larger themes in the book, there'll have to be more interactions. There has to be, otherwise, it's just the main character staring at the camera,
walking,
thinking, walking and thinking
shooting things. Oh, and let's walk some more. Bang, bang, pew, pew.
Yeah, or flitting from place to place. So yeah, I've had a lot more response to my writing, I think, than you have had, just because you've not put it out there, right? It hasn't been out in the world. It's been in your head for years and years and years.
Mm.
And what did happen is I did form a small circle, and it led to you, and it led to Lisa, and it led to the people in my life that are important to me. It didn't quite lead to my spouse, although being Dean Sage led to my spouse. I would not have met them without that. So, this podcast that I used to do, the character Dean Sage that I portray, all led to the people that are important to me. So I spoke truth, and it brought me truthful people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an interesting experience to have kind of created this small community. And I had other people that rallied around Dean Sage that I kind of, as I had to be more in the world in a business way, I lost track with them because I wasn't putting out Dean Sage material for them to consume. And so the connection faded. Mm-hmm. But I had, a group of people that kind of rallied around that, and I found people through that. And it was, that's, I think, a good example of this reading, that there is a very positive side to it. There might be an inconvenient side too, as you pointed out. Mm-hmm. There might be some pushback, and there was, people pushed back against what I wrote and didn't like it, and, felt it too much this or too much that, or not enough this, not enough that. But you can still form a group even amidst the conflict. And, maybe someone who heard inconvenient truth through what I created and changed for the latter, changed for the difference. I'm not sure. We have a Patreon. It is patreon.com/DeanSageMedia. You can go there and support us. You can subscribe and get the longer episodes where we talk about how the reading influenced us personally. We have a YouTube at Show Your Deck. It's Show Your Deck on YouTube. You can look at the videos, see the cards that we're talking about, and generally have a more visual experience if that is how you prefer to take on your podcasts. Maybe one of these days we'll have AI avatars that you can look at us talking at you. Our books and our decks are available at showyourdeck.com. Jack's books are available directly through Jack. Mine are available through Amazon, both paperback, hardback, and on Kindle Unlimited for free. Our decks are available via a distributor. So we don't actually make those ourselves. They come through a distributor, and you can go to the website that we link to purchase them. Jack, where can we find you?
I'm at 49 Haiku. So on the intrawebs, it is the number 4, the number 9, HAIKU.com. And on Instagram, it is at 49 Haiku.
I am Dean Sage Media. Find me if you dare. We have an Instagram. It's at Your Deck on Instagram. And we'll say goodbye.